have three special guests tonight, technically. Clinton's children, Elliot and Owen, are off screen right now. They are not the guest of honor tonight. The guest of honor tonight, we have Richie O'Leary from On3 Rutgers joining us this evening as we are officially in the final three of our fall preview series. About 10 days out from the start of week 0. Gentlemen, football is here. Richie, sir, thank you so much for joining us this evening. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm a little offended it took you guys this long to get me on, but yeah, here we are.
These last 6 weeks has been it's been a roller coaster trying to get all of these in. There's been reschedules. My schedule's been crazy. Clinton's schedule's been crazy. But we did it. We got it here. I'm excited to talk this team tonight because I think we were really high on them last year, and I think it's going to be fascinating to kind of dig into maybe what went wrong a little bit. I think we have a pretty good idea, but how they shake up for this year. So it should be a fun conversation. Clinton, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. This is the first podcast I've ever done with the kids awake / in the room. So it's a first time experience. Glad Richie gets to join us for that. But no, as Ryan said, it's an interesting year coming into Rutgers. I think Ryan and I, again, we said on our Iowa preview last week that we were a bit weak in the knees for Iowa last year, and we were a bit weak in the knees for Rutgers getting to 9 wins last year, which didn't happen. So we're pretty excited. I'll give you water in a second. Here, you have mine. And I'm looking forward to talking about them to see how they do. Take it to him, please. Other than that, Ryan, I'm sweaty again, man. This is 4 straight shows because every one of our shows keep falling on the night of a flag football night. So I'm ready to talk about the Rutgers Knights. So get us kicking here, Ryan.
If you had the under on 2 minutes for the first child interruption, congratulations, folks. You cashed that bet.
Yes, that
Real
was
quick,
Owen, everyone. He said he needed water.
Real quick before we get started, guys, reminder to subscribe to the YouTube page. We are live right now. You can catch all of our episodes live, youtube.com/@ITPCFB. If you would prefer to not look at us while you listen to us, you can find us in podcast form, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. Search Inside the Pylon, a Midwest College Football Podcast. While you are there, make sure you follow the show so you can get notified as soon as new episodes drop. We are now officially in our 3 times a week schedule, and we will be more consistent with that next week once we finish fall previews. And as always, please follow us on Twitter @ITPCFB. That is going to be your one-stop shop for all of our content, all of our links, and all of our crosstalk as we get ready for college football season. It's here, guys. We did it. And Richie, before we kind of dig into 2025 Rutgers, last year there was a lot of hype around this team, and maybe hype's not the right word, but we'll call it positive vibes, positive feelings. You're returning a quarterback who had Big Ten starting experience, maybe not at Rutgers, but a guy who had played in the Big Ten with Athan Kaliakmanis, one of the best running backs in school history, and Kyle Monangai, an experienced defense, and a schedule that looked really favorable for, as Clinton just kind of mentioned, getting to that 9-win mark. But whether it be injuries or some guys, maybe not reaching their potential, it did, even though it was a 7-6 season overall, it did feel like a little bit of a letdown. Given that, what's kind of the fan base's tenor in 2025 with Greg Schiano?
I mean, Greg Schiano's basically the only coach that's ever won at Rutgers at this point in program history. Oldest program in college football, and he's the only one that found a way to somehow win games. It's kind of crazy to say that out loud, but it's true. I mean, they definitely see that it's on the upward trajectory. Last season was a little bit difficult for the sole fact that there was just so many injuries. I think the biggest one from the start was probably Brian Felter at left guard. The offense was humming. They beat Virginia Tech, and then he goes down, and it's like, okay. They couldn't just really replace him. It was more of like they had Taj White going from backup right tackle to left guard. Then they're like, okay, or vice versa. I'm sorry. They tried Jonte Chin first. It didn't work out. Then their backup right tackle, they're like, Taj White, you go and you try it out. And it ended up working out a little bit in the end. But the defense itself also got pretty banged up. Aaron Lewis was hurt all year long. Wesley Bailey was hurt and then quit on the team mid-season and then entered the transfer portal now at Louisville. Linebackers, Muhammad Toure tore his ACL for the second time in 3 years before week 1 of camp, I think it was. Then you had to throw out Tyreen Powell tore his Achilles in the offseason, who was still playing but still recovering. Also broke his wrist last season and missed some games. And then you have the defensive backs, and Flip Dixon was hurt. Robert Longerbeam was hurt. And it's just, you add all that together, and somehow you still were able to snag 7 wins despite a very favorable schedule. They should have probably got more. Hell, I mean, they should have got the Illinois win. It should have been 8 technically because they had that game and they had them on the ropes completely, and they just kind of stupid blunder in the end by Schiano. But I think the tenor about the fan base is basically like they're still on an upward trajectory, and I think things are still looking bright for Rutgers. It's just the schedule this year is not going to be easy.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at overall too. I mean, even some of these other losses, you mentioned the Illinois one, but I mean, UCLA, that was a close game as well. Nebraska, they played them closest too. Really, the only sour spots, if you were to call them that, on the schedule was the Wisconsin game and the USC game. So they gave Kansas State a pretty good battle in the bowl game as well. So kind of parlaying that into question two, Kyle Monangai leaves, but Athan Kaliakmanis returns for his second year starting at quarterback for this offense. Yards per attempt were a little low, but guy who took care of the ball pretty well this year, and they actually had a pretty good passing offense last year. Heading into this season, where do you see him taking his biggest strides for the upcoming season?
I think he's actually going to put up a lot better numbers. If you look at the last, I think it was 5 or 4 games of the season, they were averaging 30 points per game. So like the offense started to hum, and then you saw him against Kansas State, which, mind you, not a Big Ten defense, not really a good defense at all, but they still put up 40 plus points on them. So I think between working with Kirk Shiraka again for the third year or second year in a row, I think it's going to help him really just understand the offense more. I think his completion percentage needs to get a little bit better. I always say with quarterbacks, when something like a completion percentage is down 2 years in a row, it's like, okay, it's definitely on him. It's not like a weird freak coincidence. But I think this year with Ian Strong, who's got a crazy wingspan, probably NFL potential if he wanted to leave early after the season. KJ Duff's a really tall, freaky 6'6" wide receiver on the other side. And then you had a guy like DT Sheffield. And then on top of it all, you're going to add CJ Campbell, who had 400 receiving yards out of FAU last year out of the backfield. So you got a lot of different weapons you could really work with. Most of the line returns too. So I really think the sky could be the limit for him. And I think he could, I don't know if I would say I'm going to guarantee 3,000 yards, but I think he could come close to it.
I think the interesting part with Kaliakmanis and just the Big Ten on the whole is outside of Kaliakmanis, Luke Altmaier, and Drew Aller, there's not much experience. Like people can say Fernando Mendoza coming over, but he's never played in the Big Ten. Those are the only 3 guys that have 3 years of playing experience within the Big Ten. So Kaliakmanis kind of leads that experienced group, but yet a lot of times what I read is most people feel like he is let me say this properly here, low ceiling, high floor type quarterback. We had Ryan Burns on last year who gave us a really good background when Kaliakmanis making his transition over to Rutgers. Gave us a good background with him. Outside of the 3 receivers you kind of mentioned, Demir Miller is now with the New York Jets. Is there anybody else that could step up? Any super young guys? I know you mentioned KJ Duff already, but any other young guys that could kind of sneak in there?
Ben Black's probably with wide receiver 4 right now. Really kind of speedster type out of North Carolina. He had moments last year where the ball, like he was wide open. He was able to create the separation downfield, and then the ball would just hit him in the helmet. And it's like, dude, like, got to use your hands a little bit. Like, what are we doing? And we probably should say this out loud, but we saw it once in camp this year, and I'm like, geez, dude, again, like figure it out. So the separation's there, the speed's there, and it's like, okay, as long as he could just figure out how to catch the ball, I mean, sky's the limit for him. The kid DT Sheffield coming out of North Texas is freaky good. And I've seen some of the rankings, and I'm not in charge of transfer portal rankings or anything for On3, but a lot of sites are ranking him like a top 20, top 25 receiver. And I saw the interest out of the portal. I saw the tape, and I thought he was solid. But seeing him in person is totally different. I think that kid has all the potential in the world to be a crazy good slot receiver. Once he has the ball in space, it's just electric. He's able to almost take it to the house anytime he wants. He's also a return man too, so that'll play a factor there in the special teams for Rutgers. But he's one I'm going to keep a really close eye on. But between him, Ian Strong, KJ Duff, Ben Black, it's probably the main core 4 guys you're really going to hear from this year.
And then kind of going to question 3, perhaps. I mean, he isn't perhaps. He is my all-time favorite Rutgers running back, Kyle Monangai, absolute beast. He now leaves Rutgers. He's leaving though with some history, number 2 all-time in total rushing. Now with the Chicago Bears and breaking in there. The room, though, still feels pretty strong overall. You got Antoine Raymond, Samuel Brown, C.J. Campbell, Jashawn Benjamin. Who do you see kind of taking lead back duties in this offense, and then how they're going to divvy up the carries? And then one more further, it felt like last year, a lot of times Monangai didn't get utilized a ton in the pass game. Is there more of an ability to kind of use these backs like in swing routes, screens, and utilize them more in the pass game?
Going back to the first one, I think CJ Campbell's probably going to be the lead back. We talked to Schiano on Saturday, and he said it's still competition for every position. He says that all the time. But Antoine Raymond had a really good year last year. He had 500 yards, or almost 500 yards as a true freshman, 8 touchdowns, 100. I think it was 120 plus against Kansas State in a bowl game. So like he was able to step up very easily, and I actually thought like that's it, like he's the back next year. And then they go out and add a guy in CJ Campbell, and you watch his tape, and he's really exciting too because he has the ability to catch it out of the backfield. Are they going to use that? I don't really know how much they will, but I think you're going to have to a little bit. Why would you not take advantage of something if the kid has the ability to do that? But add in those two, add in Jay Benjamin, who's coming back after a redshirt year. I think it's really going to just be a running back by committee for the most part. But I think if we had to put a starter title against someone, it'd probably be CJ Campbell.
That it kind of answered my next question because you look at kind of the carry split last year, and I mean, obviously, when you have an all-conference caliber running back, you were going to want to give him the ball, but 2.5 to 1, the split between Monangai and Raymond with those carries. But how I kind of want to spin this, since you did just answer that one, is do you kind of get a sense that there might be a little bit of a difference in kind of pass splits overall this year, given that, sure, there's still talent in the running back room, but it's not quite that proven all-conference level bell cow running back. And instead, now you kind of have that guy at quarterback who you've gotten a full year of experience in your system on top of his playing time that he already got at Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that this running back room in general, are they going to get the same amount of touches that like they did last year? Probably not. I think it'll be a little bit more pass heavy. I shouldn't even say pass heavy. It'll be more friendly towards the pass game because it's still always going to be a run first offense under Greg Schiano. I don't care who the OC is. That's just his philosophy. That's old school ground pound football. He's always going to be like that. But I do think with the weapons you have at receiver this year, with the weapons you have in the running back room, even to become a receiver out of that backfield, but add in a tight end and Colin Weber out of Charlotte and Kenny Fletcher, who returns after a solid productive season in 6 games last year. And I think you'll see a lot more passing. That being said, though, I do think that this running back room really isn't going to miss a beat. It's hard to say that when you have the number 2 rusher in program history leaving. But I do think if you combine the room this year versus last year, I want to say it's just slightly better last year, but not that much of a difference.
Kind of transitioning now over to the defense, I think perhaps the big story of this unit in 2024, in addition to the injuries, was just the lack of getting to the quarterback itself. Only 22 sacks in 2025, and they really went hard in the portal to address that. The big 2 ones with being Bradley Weaver from Ohio University and Eric O'Neill from James Madison. But it looks like, at least based on the projected depth chart I've seen, it looks like all 4 guys, at least along the defensive line, are projected to be starters coming in from the portal. The note Clinton had in here was the last time that Phil Steele noted that the last time Rutgers had a double-digit sack getter was over a decade ago. Can you just kind of elaborate a little bit on what Schiano and this defensive staff is expecting from these transfers along the defensive line and the impact that they'll have in 2025?
So the interior technically probably won't be transfers to start. I think the transfers that came in have a chance to start down the line, but for now, I would say it's probably the veterans and Zaire Angoy and Kashawn Griffin. But again, they're going to rotate a lot. They have a lot of bodies there. So, but Bradley Weaver and Eric O'Neill really have a ton of potential. Eric O'Neill going from Long Island, where he's an FCS All-American, to James Madison, where he just dominated completely. I think he had, I want to say 9.5 or 10.5 sacks last year. Most notably in the bowl game. I forget who James Madison played, but he did the Israel Adesanya celebration with the bow and arrow and just kept hitting the guy over and over and over. And I'm like, dude, that kid's great. Like I've known him since he was in high school too. It's funny. He's always wanted to go to Rutgers. He was a tight end out of high school, and I thought he was an okay tight end, and it just ended up working out. And he's back at Rutgers, so we talk about that from time to time. But I think he's got, I shouldn't say a plethora of pass rush moves, but he has a couple pass rush moves, mostly his speed and his bending ability around that edge. And then Bradley Weaver's kind of the opposite. He's more of a big, bulkier, defensive end, the guy that's just going to power rush you and be able to outmuscle you basically to get to that quarterback. I think you combine those two, and as long as you have a decent pass rush from that interior, I think it could cause a little bit of havoc. I've been saying time and time again, with those two on the edges, I think it's the best defensive end room that Rutgers has probably had since that 10 years ago, you said, when it was 10 plus sacks. So I'd probably say it's around then.
You can go
They're
ahead,
kind of
Ryan.
moving
I'm
back
trying
to.
keep us as quiet as I can over here.
No, you're good, man. Kind of moving towards the back seven as well. You know, hitting the portal a little bit as well in the defensive back room. Kim Miller coming over from Penn State, Jacoby Henderson coming over from Marshall, and then God, I can't read my own handwriting. That's so embarrassing. Hold on, let me look at something that doesn't.
Yeah.
Jet
Jet.
Elad. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell did I write there? From UNLV at the safety position. Where do you see these guys kind of slotting into the lineup in the defensive backfield? Are we talking rotational guys, or are you expecting them to be opening night starters?
Cam Miller, definitely a starter. Jacoby Henderson, probably a rotational piece, could potentially be a starter in that nickel. The past couple of years, Rutgers has always run a 4-2-5, like a lot of college football does now. And in that 4-2-5, it was three safeties for the past couple of years. This year, it's probably going to switch to three corners. So obviously that third corner is going to, you guys are going to have to be able to tackle. That's the biggest concern up front. And with a run defense that really struggled last year, I don't know if it's the best move in the world, but personnel wise, you kind of have to go with what you have. So that's probably what they're going to run with. I think Jacoby Henderson has a chance to be that third corner. But he has 2 years left too, so he's going to be here for a little bit. And they've done really well with multi-year guys over the past couple of years, specifically at corner. There was Trey Avery a couple years ago who had a couple seasons, goes on, I think he was a 7th-round pick. Then you had Christian Braswell, goes on, becomes a 2nd-round pick. And these guys usually don't start year one. They go off the rotational piece year one, and then year two is when they really take that next leap. Eric Rogers is another one who just had 2 picks this past weekend with the Chargers. So it's right now the defensive backfield. If I'm just putting it like guessing, it would probably be, because they don't give us a depth chart.
Sure.
Bo Mascow returning, Cam Miller. That third spot's either Jacoby Henderson or Al-Shadi Salam, and then Kaj Sanders returns at safety, 2nd-year guy, true freshman last year, who played in I think all 12 games, and then Jet Elad, who is technically eligible as of right now. We'll see what goes on with that whole NCAA court case and stuff. I think he'll be okay, but who knows?
Do you, with the co-defensive coordinators with Rob Smith and Zach Sarver, do you envision much in terms of a scheme or deployment change? Or are you expecting it to kind of be status quo as it has been?
It's probably going to be the same. It's Greg Schiano, defensive first guy, knows everything there is to know about defense. It's always going to be his defense with kind of little things from like the DC. Like last year, Joe Harris-Simiak threw in his little thoughts here and there, but for the most part, the base is Greg Schiano's base, and it's his playbook. Now they'll throw in wrinkles, of course. Sparber's the interesting one out of the two, because he didn't get the title as play caller, whereas Rob Smith's just defensive play caller / co-DC. Whereas Sparber is linebackers coach / co-DC, so he's not calling plays, but he was actually going to get the James Madison defensive coordinator job. So I'm interested to see how much say he really ends up having when it's all said and done, especially because Rob Smith's such a unique case. He's been a guy that's been with Schiano. This is going to be his 3rd go around, if you count Tampa. With the NFL, and he's been fired by Greg Schiano. So it's like, it's very bizarre. And I'm not talking like he got fired during 1.0. He got fired during 2.0. So it was just a very weird hiring. I don't think he was Greg's first choice. Actually, I could tell you for a fact he wasn't Greg's first choice, because Corey Heatherman was Greg's first choice, but then he goes to Miami. But I don't know if he was his second choice, because they took a solid like 3 months after the season to announce this hiring of a DC, or 2 months, I think it was. But either way, it is a little concerning, just because there's a bright side and a negative side. Rob Smith's first year at every program he goes to, it's actually pretty good. It's the second year where there's just a huge downfall, whether it be Duke, whether it be Rutgers, whether it be Arkansas. Everywhere he's gone that second year, there's just like a fall off a cliff for the defense. So I think in long-term thinking, I think Greg thinks Sparber will be the guy eventually at DC. And interestingly enough, they signed a contract this same offseason. Sparber has an extra year than Rob Smith too. So it kind of leans towards kind of a DC in waiting. But I'm interested to see what kind of wrinkles he's learned working with Manny Diaz, or I'm sorry, with Mike Elko, with he's where else was he? He was always at Penn State last year, working with James Franklin and his crew. So I'm interested to see what he can do, and I'm also interested to see what Sparber can do wrinkles wise, because that was a pretty damn good James Madison team.
Mm-hmm. And that's some good guys to be learning from. Whenever you can have kind of Mike Elko in your
Yeah.
as a resume point as a defensive coach, that's a pretty quality place to be. But
Yeah.
defensively, you know, we've talked a lot about the portal guys, but at least in terms of returning guys, young guys on the roster, anyone we should be keeping our eye on as a potential breakout candidate for 2025.
On defense, you're talking about?
Yeah.
But I mean, Kaj Sanders, I just mentioned, he's coming back. Started, I want to say 7 games as a true freshman, 4-star freshman, Bergen Catholic kid. They don't get many of them, but when they get them, they're pretty damn good. So he's getting a lot better. Last year, a lot of big learning curve, a lot of bad angles, a lot of poor tackling, but he's fixed a lot of that. He's also added a lot of muscle. Bo Mascal is one that I really think is going to take off. I don't think enough people are talking about him. I legitimately think he might be CB1 for this team, which is crazy to say considering Cam Miller's been with Penn State for 4 years before getting into Rutgers this year, and he was pretty good. He was a starter at Penn State. Josh Henderson, of course, is over there, but I think Bo Mascal is one to keep a real close eye on. And then Zaire Angoy, the one I mentioned before at defensive tackle, I shouldn't say he's young, because they returned so many different veteran pieces at this point. But he is a fourth or fifth, I think he's a 5th-year senior at this point. When he joined Rutgers, he was a 385-pound freshman. He is now down to 305. So
Wow.
this is the lightest he's ever been. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he's going to work as that nose tackle. And with that athleticism change too. I mean, he looks like he's moving very, very well. Because when this guy got here, it was like, I don't think he's going to make it. I see portal in a year or two, and grinded it out, and he's down at 80 pounds. So incredible.
Damn. Let's kind of hitting question 6, just kind of big picture schedule talk, because we touched on it at the top. You know, this is a pretty favorable schedule for Rutgers, all things considered, and their Big Ten draw is certainly not that level of favorable this year. You know, you get Oregon and Penn State at least at home, but closing the season at Ohio State, at Penn State. You also get at Illinois in here, a team that many have pegged as a potential playoff contender. This year you have Iowa in here, you have at Minnesota in here, at Washington in here, teams that are always usually pretty good or on the up and up in the Big Ten this year. And even in the non-conference, you know, you get 2 MAC schools, but it's the 2 MAC schools who played for the conference championship last year. It truly feels like, Norfolk State aside, and no disrespect to Norfolk State here, but it feels like a schedule. Yeah, that's good point. It feels like a schedule for Rutgers where there's really not any down weeks or off weeks. You just kind of got to be on your game all the time. Given that schedule, even though this is a team with a lot of talent returning, what do you kind of view as reasonable expectations, or how would you define a successful season for Rutgers in 2025?
I've been asked this a couple times so far, and I've stayed with the same answer every time. It's make the postseason, get to that 6-win mark. I think you do that. It's even if maybe you get the 7 wins, and it's the same record as last year. And I think some of the fan base, like the fans that don't pay attention as much, will be like, yeah, like what the hell? Like we were just 7 wins last year. Like when are we going to take it to that next level? And it's like, dude, 7 wins with that schedule. It's like that's pretty damn good. That means that you beat some solid Big Ten programs. And now I don't expect them to beat the Ohio State and the Penn State at the end of the season. They're probably, or even Oregon. I think you could just chalk up 3 L's probably right away. But I do think they'll be competitive against Iowa. I think that Friday night atmosphere is going to help. I think that they'll be competitive against Minnesota. PJ Fleck is a Greg Schiano protege, and they did pretty well against them last year. Hell, I really don't think Illinois should be ranked as high as they are. I think they're good, but I don't think they should be ranked that high. And Rutgers had them on the ropes last year. Rutgers beats them. Rutgers beats Kansas State, and now we're not talking about 7-win Rutgers. We're talking about 9-win Rutgers, and hey, maybe number 12 in the country, Rutgers. No, probably not. But
Top 20 though.
So yeah, I would think so if you had 9 wins last year. Yeah. So, but I think it's an interesting slate. But I think they have a good shot of getting to postseason.
Yeah, it's just like it feels like if you're not one of those like 3 top 10 teams in the Big Ten, right, who are always there, your Ohio State, your Penn State, your Oregon, and I mean, you know, maybe Michigan's in there, but they certainly weren't last year. But it feels like for everyone outside of that, what is success is almost entirely schedule dependent, because it seems like, and especially this year too, I think you can make an argument that some of those top teams may become a little bit back towards the pack given the quarterback uncertainty in this conference. But it just feels like it's such a hard schedule to predict because for every single one of these teams, you can kind of squint and say, hey, I could see how this team could get to 9 wins this year if everything goes right or X, Y, and Z goes right. But I could also see how they completely miss a bowl game if, maybe the quarterback's not as good as they thought. And then all of a sudden we're sitting here talking about, hey, Iowa's a tough game, but maybe their transfer quarterback doesn't hit and they're not as potent as we think they could be, or Minnesota's freshman quarterback isn't as good as we think, and all of a sudden that's not as tough of a game. So it's such an interesting schedule because it certainly has a lot of that name brand potential, but I still feel like there's a lot of unknown with most of these teams on this schedule, save for maybe Penn State.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, Ohio's got a whole entire new roster too, and we're not even talking about the out of conference ones. Like their new
Yep.
roster, new coach too. I don't know how they're gonna do. I mean, they did steal their best defensive end, so their best defensive player. So you would think, knock on wood, like, hey, we got rid of him already. It's a win.
Right.
And then you guys, there I should say you guys. Would you guys go to Ohio?
Yeah, we both did.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, so I could say you guys. You guys took Shedrick Rhodes back, and I watched him suck. Like he was pretty bad. I'm sorry, there's just no other better word for it. He was really bad. But you guys took him back. I think he's starting, right, for you guys again?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds about right.
So I mean Bradley Weaver versus Shedrick Rhodes, I'm pretty confident in. But yeah, the Big Ten's really interesting because like I see a clip of Iowa's quarterback and it's get like 5 million views because most Hawkeye fans have never seen a forward pass.
Right.
But then all of a sudden you see the clip from the practice after and he's like fumbling snaps and it's going over his head and it's
Airmails
like,
a guy.
yeah, it's like, okay, no, that is Iowa. Okay. I thought my eyes were deceiving me. So, but I think Friday night atmosphere for Rutgers, if you're 3-0, you should be. Miami, Ohio, Miami, Ohio, Norfolk State. 3-0 Rutgers against Iowa Friday night. That's really the litmus test. That's going to see what this team is made of. If you could knock down Iowa early on in the year and just go 4-0, and then you play Minnesota, am I crazy for saying 5-0 at that point? Then you beat Washington last year, and you have to go across the country, which sucks. Also a Friday night. You never know. It's crazy to say. Like I think that Rutgers could be one win away from a postseason pretty quickly if all things go to plan.
Well, I mean, Richie, you're playing the hits here because that was last year. You start 3-0, you get a Friday night game against Washington, and you shock them. And I'm sitting there watching that Nebraska game halfway through. I'm like, damn, Rutgers is going to get to 5-0 here, and they just couldn't get it across the line. I mean, all things considered, I mean, I think if you get through those first two games unscathed, Norfolk should be fine, and you get to 3-0, you're riding momentum again with a home game Friday night. Man, all bets are off at that point.
I think they have a shot at it. I really do. I don't know what that spread's going to be. I know the over/under is probably going to be like 25, but it could be a good one for Rutgers. And I think that tells the entire story of the season right then and there.
Yeah, we should have a pretty good idea of this team, what they're going to be early, at least heading into that bye week after that Minnesota game. Maybe 4-0 Rutgers, maybe 3-1 Rutgers. Jesus, I can't do math. 3-2. I don't know.
Ryan
It's hard.
is not the math guy on this podcast.
No, I've never been the math guy. Rudimentary math is hard for me. Clinton, anything else you want to touch on before we?
Well, we got to the end of the show, and now my kids are gone. Damn. All these beautiful questions I made, and I got to ask one.
Yeah.
No, man, I'm really excited to see what Rutgers has. I believe in Schiano. That's the thing, right? He's the magic man at Rutgers, so we can't doubt him. And a third-year starter at quarterback when you're in a league with so much unknown coming through, I'm excited to see what they have. And I was thinking back when I was muted there, back to that Washington game last year, and they won that game. And Ryan and I were both on the Twitter and on the show saying, "You cowards, rank Rutgers, rank them, put them where they need to be. We will speak on behalf of them."
4-0.
And we've also said, and Richie, I don't know how you feel about this. We feel a lot of the times the Big Ten in past years has lived pretty top heavy. And we always have that debate of Big Ten, SEC. And the SEC just feels so deep every year in addition to the elite teams at the top. Ryan and I have both said multiple times that this is the deepest the Big Ten has been in years. Get your thoughts kind of on that real quick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I know I just mentioned before, like Rutgers has a shot against some of these teams. And I don't think it's a knock on those teams being bad. I think it's more of Rutgers upgrading their talent across the board. Top 10 transfer portal haul, the second highest class recruiting class in program history last cycle. And they're building on it again because they have 3 4-stars already. So I think overall, I think these programs, and I think this also goes hand in hand with kind of NIL as well. They were able to build. I'm not saying they're going to like be Texas A&M or Texas Tech and throw around crazy amounts, but they're able to build enough that they're going to be better than what they would have been pre-NIL, and they're recruiting better because of it. So I really think between Rutgers, I mean, hell, Illinois. I know I just gave them crap, but like they're pretty good right now. Like they're ranked 12 in the country. Like people believe in them. I don't personally, but somehow people believe in them. I think Minnesota is always a hard out. Iowa, I just mentioned, like they might not even be part of that top conversation, but they're always right there, no matter what season it is. They're always going to be a top defensive team in the country. So I do think the Big Ten from top to bottom is very, very good. And I even think, and this is crazy, I shouldn't say this is crazy, but Purdue's new coach is pretty good.
Yep.
I think Purdue's roster is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So give him some time, and I think he might be able to turn it around there. I mean, you never know.
Well, I mean,
You're gonna burn our mentions down tomorrow. You did not say the Indiana Hoosiers.
Oh,
Fighting
oh,
Signetics
God.
will come after you.
I might have to Google him.
Yeah, right. He kicks the crap out of top 25 teams unless they're playing at South Bend in the playoff.
Yeah, that's a different story there.
But even like talking Purdue too, it's like I just don't know how you can reasonably evaluate a roster that has like 80 new players on it. It's just it's just like, and I think that's maybe interesting is the right word here, not the fun thing, because I think I don't want to speak for you guys, but there's always some of that nostalgia, right? Where it's like, hey, my team recruited these kids and we got to watch them grow over their 4 to 5 year career. And you develop a little bit of a personal attachment to them, even though you don't personally know them. And now it's just like guys are coming in, guys are coming out. Maybe there is this aspect of with NIL, you're able to keep some of your top end players a little bit more than maybe you had in the past, but it's just, there's so much shuffling now. And it's just so hard to kind of figure out, like, hey, how is this going to work here? And I mean, Florida State's a great example of this last year, where everyone's looking at them preseason like, oh, they got the best defensive line in the country. They're a top 10 team. And then they sucked because whether it's a culture thing or they missed on the quarterback or guys got paid and they're like, I don't really give a shit anymore. It's just, you never know which way it's going to break.
Well, you know what? I'll give you a Big Ten example. Maryland. They outspend a lot of people, and it's just like you see the roster, and then you saw the schedule last year, and you're like, oh, yeah, they're not very good at all. So
and Mike Loxley came out and said we had issues with NIL on this team last year.
Yeah, I don't know how you keep some of these players happy, especially when the numbers are. I mean, we're not guilty of it, but like our network's posting the numbers of who's making what. Like, I don't understand how you can keep a locker room happy when they find out the backup quarterback's making more than the starting defensive end or something like that. Stupid example, but
No, for sure. This kid's just stepping on campus and he got X number of dollars, and I've been here for 3 years and I'm going to start this year and I'm only getting X number of dollars. What the heck?
Yep, exactly.
A nice depressing.
Jaden Davis at Michigan when Bryce Underwood walks in with $12 million.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Oracle man.
A nice depressing topic to end our conversation on, Richie. Let's liven it up a little bit before we let you get out of here, sir. Please let our listeners know where they can find your work and what you guys have in the pipeline working here over the next couple weeks, preparing for the season opener here now in just over 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can find me on social media at On3Richie or at Rutgers On3. I'm sorry, we have a whole new network that we just changed, so it's completely different. But at Rutgers On3 or at thenighreport.com. We also run the Night Report podcast. We cover everything Rutgers all day, every day. It's a lot. It's too many podcasts probably, but it's some people like it. People listen. So yeah, between those two, between Instagram, we have a TikTok now. I didn't think I'd ever be doing that, but we are now on TikTok. We're getting pretty good views on there, which I'm shocked by. But yeah, I mean, we're anywhere you search Rutgers, you search the Night Report, you search Richie O'Leary, you'll probably find our content. We're posting nonstop Rutgers stuff. We have message boards, all the other good stuff. So yeah, appreciate it.
The thing I learned is the youths love Rutgers football. Gen Z is high on Rutgers. That's what I learned from that.
Yeah. We'll see.
Because
I think it was more so.
TikTok, I don't know.
I think it was more so the basketball content, but that's a different story. I don't want to talk about that team. I'm done with that team.
Yeah, right. We will leave it at that then. And guys, I forgot that game's a Thursday night. We are almost, by the time you guys will be listening to this podcast in your podcast feed, it will be 2 weeks from the Rutgers season opener. That is so damn exciting. It is almost here, guys. We almost made it. Everyone, enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in tonight, guys. We will be back with you for one more episode tonight, I guess, depends on when you listen to this. Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, talking the Wisconsin Badgers. We got 2 more of these before we head back to Clinton and I just bloviating about other nonsense. it'll be fun. Richie, sir, thank you once again for joining us tonight. Clinton, thank you for braving the elements to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you guys back here tomorrow night.